At the same time, the Motor Industry Staff Association has raised the flag on job security in the sector. The association has slammed Volvo for not consulting unions about the closure of some of its dealerships. MISA's media manager, Sonja Carstens, joins us for this discussion. Thank you so much for your time, Sonja. Let's start with MISA's reaction to the closure of Volvo dealerships. You do indicate that the unions were not consulted. What else is it that Volvo did not engage with unions about?
Good afternoon and thank you for having us. Volvo is supposed to, in terms of Section 189 of the Labour Relations Act, Volvo was supposed to notify MISA as the majority trade union to say, we are intending to restructure, there might be possible job losses, and how can we go about to save money? This does not happen at all. We got notice after we sent out a letter, our legal department, to notify one of the affected dealerships to say that, listen, we know that there are staff at your dealership that will be affected. You are supposed to take action. We did enter into discussions with that dealership, but that was only done last week. And we have 19 employees affected at that dealership.
What does it mean for the status of those employees that this process is actually working from back to front as opposed to the procedural manner that you've just outlined?
Well, obviously, you can just imagine the trauma of knowing that the dealership you're working for will cease to exist. In Volvo's case, they literally came along and took off the branding of the Volvo dealerships within days, removed it. So there was no way that the franchisee could continue even selling Volvo. Be it as it may, the employees were informed that they will now be working for other brands. So, for instance, just an example, let's say you were selling Volvo, you were now told or informed that you will in future sell Haval. This is not necessarily bad. At least they weren't affected and that they could still retain their jobs. The thing is just that they will now have to learn afresh how to sell a new brand.
So at least there's some comfort there, but I think the broader picture is the climate around South Africa's motor industry, given that the steel side of production has been facing some challenges. And now you add in the geopolitics with the likes of the US tariffs that are likely to impact the motor industry the hardest. How does MISA respond to those technicalities at present?
MISA is very concerned about the ongoing situation. However, there's no need for panic. We see a lot of Chinese brands coming into our country, very similar to what happened 2 decades ago when the Japanese brands started coming into our country. So brand loyalty might have shifted from consumers, where you used to be very loyal to specific brands, for instance, Mercedes-Benz or BMW. You will now try and look at cheaper options, which will be the new Chinese cars coming into our market. And that's very positive. Last year, we overall the new vehicle sales declined with 3%, but we see them picking up. Not only new vehicle sales, but also used vehicle car sales picking up this year. So we are very positive that despite all the ongoing revelations in the global market, that we will still be heading for a very positive 2025.
That's encouraging to hear, but there are also wage negotiations within the motor sector, the likes of NUMSA demanding a 10% wage increase. We actually spoke to them yesterday. Where does MISA stand in this regard?
MISA is is the majority trade union in the retail motor industry, representing more than 70,000 members. So we are with NUMSA in that very same negotiations. Yes, it's early days. The first round has just taken place. The unions tabled their demands, but the employer organizations have not yet had the opportunity to even respond. Wage negotiations is continuing on the 6th of May. It's very early days. It's way too early to determine where we're going to go, and we don't want to create unnecessary expectations amongst our members.
Having said that, Sonja, then is the climate still conducive in South Africa at a domestic level, really, where when you do speak of wage negotiations, demands as high as 10% of an increase, where does that place job security? Because at times we find that entities come back to workers and say to sustain the jobs that the wage increases, we then have to let go of some employees as a bargaining tool.
Well, that's why MISA does not only focus on wage increases per se. The union is quite unique in the fact that it offers our members a variety of financial benefits, and also with that, education. We believe that education is your key to the future. So we offer our members consistent ways of bettering themselves, upgrading their skills to be prepared for the market of the future, to enable them to apply for promotions, to enable them to have the skills for what the future might entail. And I think that's key in any industry in South Africa. We don't have control over what's happening in the global market, and we can't preempt how artificial intelligence will shape the world. But we can skill ourselves to be prepared for that.
Upskilling, that is a big talking point. Thank you so much for your input. MISA Media Manager Sonja Carstens there talking to us about developments within the motor industry, from wage negotiations to the current issue that pertains to Volvo closing its dealerships and that union indicating that they were not consulted.